We're looking at the Money in Market 2025 instruction that you answer one question and any three other questions. So, question number one is a case study which reads Lusaka Securities Exchange, LUSE, was established to deal in securities. It was registered as a stockbroker to trade in securities. Thus, LUSE has incorporated a wholly owned subsidiary called Lusaka Clearing and Settlement Agency, which will perform all clearing settlement functions for exchange, for incorporation, aimed at aligning with international standards and regulatory directives issued by the Securities Exchange Commission separately to separate and operate the central share depository. According to the announcement by Luce last week, the agency has since received a license from SEC to provide depository services that include automated delivery, clearing, and settlement services, as well as custody and not trustee services. The agency is further mandated by the Association of Numbering Agency to be the sole numbering agency in the issuance of ISN codes for securities in Zambia. With the incorporation of LCA, Luce is optimistic about fostering market integrity and lowering counterparty risk within capital markets, while at the same time ensuring that the agency effectively carries out its role of being the settlement agency of equity, corporate bonds, and secondary trading of government bonds. The statement reads, it is also a depository participant with CDSL and NSDL. This according to the link from Daily Mail below. So you're required, number one, to describe using real-world examples relevant to Zambia, the roles of the Securities Exchange Commission and LUCE, and also identify the steps of trading procedures which is used by companies when trading on LUCE relevant to Zambia, and also name the apex statutory body of the capital market in Zambia to whom customers can complain, redress grievances, and using practical examples relevant to Zambia, what the values supposed to be followed by companies trading at LUCE. Right, so to start with, we must understand the functions of the Lusaka Stock Exchange. So LUCE and SEC, they play complementary yet distinct roles when it comes to the capital market. So LUCE is it serves as an organized marketplace for trading securities, and SEC is simply a statutory regulator which ensures that there's market integrity, there's investor protection, and as well as fair play. Together, these two twin institutions are there to sustain the investor confidence, and ultimately, they're there to ensure Zambia's economic growth is propagated. So now let's look at the roles of the Lusaka Securities Exchange SEC. So number one, it is that of capital formation. So it is LUCE that enables companies to raise long-term capital by issuing shares or corporate bonds to the public. So this process actually involves mobilizing savings from you and me as individuals and institutional investors, then channeling these resources to productive areas of investment. A real-world example you can talk about is Zanaco. Okay, so Zanaco PLC raised substantial funds in 2015 using an IPO on LUCE. Then these proceeds were used to fund the branch network expansion, digital banking infrastructure, SME lending programs, and similarly, we can look at Zambian breweries. It has used the exchange of finance to their production areas that are around. So one of the first important roles of the stock exchange is facilitating capital formation. Secondly, it is that of providing a platform for secondary trading. So it offers regulated, transparent, and efficient venue for buyers to sell and buy existing what? Okay. So it is a platform where liquidity is traded. So to ensure that there's liquidity in price realization, this will allow investors to exit or to adjust their portfolios efficiently. An example is an investor who initially bought uh, the Zambia African American Tobacco Company shares and to resell them through Lucid to another investor. So this ability can only be done through Lucid, where assets can be traded in the secondary market, you can resell them. So this will enhance market attractiveness and investor confidence. The other role of the stock market is that of price discovery and market transparency. So the exchange will provide reliable price discovery mechanism. So here share prices will reflect the current demand and the supply conditions. So they also reflect the corporate performance and the macroeconomic trends. So Zambia, for instance, PLC, the price fluctuations daily based on company results, based on commodity prices, based on investor expectations that will give accurate reflection of the market sentiment. Then the platform also will promote integrity and investor confidence. So Luce will enforce strict listing rules and disclosure requirements that will ensure that there is what? Fair and orderly trading. So with the introduction of this clearing and settlement agency, LCSA, okay, it enhances the settlement security and also reduces counterparty risks. So for instance, if you have an investor who buys shares through this LCSA, it guarantees the payment and the transfer to occur simultaneously. So there's a delivery versus payment system that will minimize fraud and boost what trust. The other role is that of facilitating privatization and economic reform. So LUSA will support government uh, programs by enabling the public to participate in privatized state enterprises. This will broaden what? Ownership and deepen financial inclusion. So for instance, government sale of shares at this CCM investment holdings through Lucid. It allowed you and me as investors to invest in the mining. This will foster what? National wealth. And now, second part of the question is the roles of what? SEC. What are the roles of the Securities Exchange Commission? So this is a law governing body that oversees the capital markets in Zambia. So its primary role is to protect what? Investors and ensure that there's orderly functioning of the securities market. So number one, the role of SEC is to regulate and supervise. So it is SEC that licenses, it monitors and regulates all market participants, including LUSE himself, the brokers, the investment advisors, the fund managers, and all listed companies to ensure that there's compliance with the Securities Act and there's ethical business conduct. So it is through SEC that regular audits are done and licenses are given. For instance, we have Mayflow Capital and Pangaea Securities that are there to confirm the capital adequacy, the transparency and protection of clients. The other role of SEC is to uh, uh, ensure investor protection. So investor confidence is very important for any functioning market. So SEC will ensure that there's full and accurate disclosure of the listed firms and to handle the complaints and also enforce sanctions for market abuse. For instance, if there's insider trading or misrepresentation or manipulation, in a case where a company will issue misleading prospectus as what happened with Madison Finance, the SEC can impose fines and suspend trading to ban directors from future market participation. The other role of SEC is that of approval public offers and listings. So before any company can issue securities in this market to the public, SEC must firstly uh, vet and approve the prospectus to ensure that all material risks and financial statements are fairly and clearly represented. So we have CEC Africa Investment, for instance. SEC had reviewed their financial disclosures and governance structure to ensure that transparency and investor safety was obtained. The other role is that of market development innovation. So SEC drives capital market growth by introducing new instruments and improving market infrastructure and also aligning Zambia's capital markets with what international best practices. For instance, SEC, they are reformed to separate the Central Statistics Depository, which we now call the LCSA, from LUCE. It was a major effort to modernize this. Then enforcement of good corporate governance. So SEC is there to enforce what? The code of governance. Okay? It's there to ensure there's code of governance. That is another important role. So we talk about supervision and regulation, investor protection, to ensure that investors are accurate and also approve public offers. So it must vet and approve all prospectus. It also formulates policies that will develop a deep liquid, robust capital market exam. So SEC, their directive to separate the central depository to now lose. It was one of the roles. Now identify steps of trading procedures which is used by a company when trading in the Lusaka Securities Exchange using practical steps. So there are several steps that uh, one must follow before engaging. These are all defined procedural steps that will ensure there's fairness, there's efficiency, and there's legal compliance. So it is operated on an automated trading system and is complemented by the Central Depository System, CDS, managed by uh, the LCSA. So the first step that one must engage is what opening securities account. So before an investor must open account with a licensed broker, you who is a member, the broker will conduct what is called KYC, know your customer verification. So Mr. Banda, for instance, wants to open an investment account with Pangaea Securities. So he'll provide his NRC, his bank details, and proof of residence. Secondly, placing an order. So placing an order there involves you providing instructions. You instruct the broker to buy or sell a specific quantity of listed securities at a specific price and limit order. So here, the investor will just instruct the broker to buy a specific number of shares, either at market price or current price, or limit price, which is simply a specific rate. So here, Mr. Banda can instruct his broker to say buy 1,000 shares at Zambi for 10 kwacha each. And the third one is order entry and matching. So the broker will enter the order into the Lusaka ATS, which is automatically matched to buy or sell orders based on the price, time, and priority. So this system will match Mr. Banda's buy order with Mrs. Piri's sell order for 1,000 shares at 10 kwacha. Then step 4, you trade and execute. Okay, so trade execution and confirmation. So once matched, the trade is now executed and confirmation notes will be generated for both the buyer and the seller dealing in the security name. So, for instance, Pangaea, who's a buyer, and Mayflow Capital, who's a seller, will receive electronic confirmation that 1,000 shares were traded at 10.50. Then clearing. So Lusaka Clearing and Settlement Agency will calculate and confirm the payment and delivery obligations for each part, ensuring that both parties are capable of fulfilling the trade obligations. So the agency will confirm that Mr. Banda bought 10,500, whilst Mrs. Piri also delivered 1,000 worth of shares. And the last step is settlement. So using the T plus 3 rule on the trade date plus 3 working days. The agency will facilitate simultaneous transfer of cash and securities using the delivery versus payment mechanism. He and Mr. Banda's account will be debited with a 10,500 plus brokerage fee, whilst 1,000 shares will be credited to his CDS account. So Mrs. B will receive payment, completing this whole transaction. So this is what happens in the background. Okay. So any questions so far? Mm,
No questions for me. It's clear and following.
okay. So we've done. So now we're looking at name the apex statutory body of the capital market in Zambia to whom customers can complain to address the grievances. Yeah. So we are looking at the apex statutory body. Okay. So the Securities Exchange Commission is actually the apex statutory body responsible for investor grievances redress in Zambia's capital market. So investors who may experience any misconduct like fraudulent misrepresentation or non-delivery of securities or unauthorized trading can lodge a formal complaint with the SEC. And SEC will investigate the matter and immediately mediate between the parties. If necessary, impose fines and suspensions or revoke licenses. It is also within their mandate as an investor protection fund to compensate investors in the case of proven misconduct by the licensed intermediaries. So if Pangaea Securities, for instance, mismanages a client or executes an authorized transaction, the affected investor can appeal to SEC for investigation and possible compensation. So those are okay. So number D, using practical examples relevant to Zambia, what are the values which are supposed to be followed by companies trading at the Lusaka Securities Exchange? Okay, so here using examples, what are some of the companies that are listed on the Lusaka Exchange Securities Exchange must adhere to some ethical governance values that will promote integrity and transparency. So number one is transparency and full disclosure. Here, companies must promptly disclose any material information likely to affect share prices or investor decisions. For instance, Zambia PLC, they must issue a public statement or profit warning that a disease outbreak will threaten the livestock. But they must ensure that no investor trades on privileged information. Okay. So the second one is that of integrity and ethical conduct. So directors and management must act honestly and avoid fraudulent and manipulative insider trading. For instance, if you have a director with insider knowledge of an upcoming dividend increase, they cannot what? Purchase shares before the announcement. Okay. So these are important. Any questions?
Nothing on my end, sir.
All right. So um, we're looking at what? We're looking at the values that are supposed to be followed by companies trading here. So we talked about transparency, full disclosure, integrity, and ethical dealing, and accountability and fairness. So the board of directors should be accountable to all shareholders. So they must actually treat all shareholders, including the minority shareholders, fairly. There's no segregation whatsoever. So we have different classes of shareholders. We know some are majority, some are minor. So this is an obligation. Then compliance with the laws and regulations. So they must adhere to SEC um, listings. So they must adhere with these regulations. So the regulations of the Act and other relevant laws, these ones are non-negotiable. So for instance, if you have a listed company, it must submit its audited annual financial statements with LUCE and SEC within the stipulated time frame after the financial year end. So this is how question one was supposed to be answered. Unless there are any questions, we will end here. So we'll continue again in the evening. We'll look at question two and another question will be another paper.